guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Okay. Well, all the fun things you can do online and purchase, which kind of leads us to our first hour guest tonight. And Charles, I know you're a big car buff and fanatic, and you fix up these cars. And um, if you're buying a used car these days, you probably know that it's not as simple as it used to be. I mean, there are so many more alternatives than just going to a used car dealer like we used to. There's Craigslist. There's all these, buying these cars online. And what about a new car? Well, here's the thing. I thought tonight that we'd talk a little bit about using technology to help you make the automobile selection that's right for you. And by the way, if you live in Canada, you're really in luck. Our guest this hour is with a company called Carcostcanada, which according to them is Canada's #1 choice for new car buyers and the nation's most trusted online new car pricing service. Evidently, since 1999, they have provided Canadian new car buyers with access to their proprietary wholesale price reports. Complementing the wholesale price reports, they also have an in-house team of automotive professionals with an accumulated 100 years of experience and a Canada-wide new car dealer network. Tonight you're going to hear how it's done in Canada. Joining us is Ben Spatafora. Ben is the National Director for Carcostcanada. Ben, welcome into Computer America. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks very much for having me tonight.
Oh, our pleasure. And no, this is not April's Fool. This is a real thing. And so tell us a little bit about this. I know you came to me. I got word of you and what it is that you do through a PR person that I'm very familiar with, and we've worked together. And he said, he told me about you, and I said, well, how does it fit into technology? And you start telling me about some of the things that you do, and I said, this would be kind of cool. We should get him on the show and talk a little bit about what it is that you do and what it is you offer for new car buyers. So why don't you talk a little bit about the company itself, Carcostcanada. I know you've been around since 1999, and you have an internet presence. Tell us about the idea behind Carcostcanada.
Well, sure. The idea behind Carcostcanada was to bring consumers or buyers that dealer costing information, and all on that internet speed, so that they can make an informed decision. So we developed a wholesale price report. And on that wholesale price report, unlike that sticker price that when you go to the dealership, you see it on either online, of course, or on the sticker of the window, that only shows you the MSRP. But our industry has always worked on costing information plus a profit. So we developed that wholesale price report, and the key factors of it are that there's the MSRP and the dealer cost. In other words, what that dealer paid the manufacturer. So you get to see the exact relationship between cost and MSRP. But the outstanding features is the incentives. In the last 5 to 6, 7 years, incentives have been really the driving force in front of consumers wanting to buy cars, and we list those incentives. And some of those incentives are not advertised, such as past model allowance, dealer cash, that sort of thing. We list the leasing and finance rates, and again, many cases there's also a dealer referral, because many of our consumers used to say, okay, well I've got this piece of paper now, what do I do with it now? So we developed a dealer network right across the country that welcomes members on a cost plus a margin basis, and that's really the key factors of that report and of our membership and what we do for consumers right across the country.
It sounds to me that if you put all the cards on the table, and I know what a dealer has paid for the car, because that was the thing. When you walk into a new car dealer, you don't know what that dealer paid for that car. You had no idea. You were totally in the dark. You saw the sticker price, and then you would haggle with the salesman, and he'd go to his manager, and then come back, and say, well, we can do this. And I mean, it was like a little theater dance, of what would go on, and that was basically the process, that you would go through to buy a car. And it sounds to me that if I know now before I walk into a dealer exactly what that dealer has paid for that car, um, doesn't that really changes the whole game, does it? Doesn't it?
It sure does. It puts you on a level playing ground, and that's really the key factor again. By having that information, you could now make an informed decision. Whether that decision is based on economics, whether it's based on loyalty to a particular dealer, it it allows you to make that informed decision, as well as that the shall we say the transaction being transparent allows for both parties to get closer together rather than farther apart. And you're right. I remember my dad used to go in with me in hand and a checkbook in his shirt pocket, and he was there. He thought for sure that the dealership was making $15,000 on that $3,000 car. Um, but
And maybe they did. You know, you don't know what they're because they go through this whole process and they're very protective. I can't think that a dealer would be happy about knowing that that the people walking in through the virtual doors are going to know exactly what the dealer paid for. That puts the dealer in a whole different light.
Well, no, wait. I think I think it just now requires the dealer to actually be on par with what they're saying. They have to actually they have to completely justify why they are charging me $15,000-$20,000 on this $5,000 car. And if we see what went into building this car, I mean, it's gonna really it's gonna really like shake things up. And there are other places online where in the U.S. where we can see the what other people have paid for the car, but there isn't anything that I know of that says you can see what this car cost from the factory. What it is actually costing, because I mean, let's face it, the same level of stuff, if we were to go back 40, 50 years, cars were $3,000-$4,000 off the lot. Brand new, fully specced out, paying more than 10 grand for a car was unheard of. It just didn't make any sense because it didn't cost them that to make. And now it's like suddenly they believe that, well, we've got all these people involved and we make crappy cars, let's charge you $40,000 and still expect you to buy a new one in 2 years. So I'm all for sticking it to the dealership.
Yeah. Well, and of course the dealers could go on if they don't make the profits that they used to, then maybe they'll just go out of business. You wouldn't shed a tear for that either?
I wouldn't shed a tear for that. No. Because I mean, look at Tesla. Okay, look at Tesla. Tesla doesn't have dealerships, and I know that there are places in I forget what state it is where they banned Tesla. The dealerships lobbied the local government to ban Tesla because you could walk into a mall or to a store and order your car, and the dealers were cut out. They weren't getting their stupid dealer handling fees.
That's right.
Getting their stupid, I had it on the lot for 20 minutes and somebody sprayed it with a water hose fee. This man. And what's funny is most car salesmen are on commission. So there is no overhead for this dealership other than the cost of the facility, which is rent, and electricity. 9 times out of 10, that's paid for by the sponsors. The guys that come in that are like, "Oh, I'm Ford. I want to put my logo on your lot." Okay, cool.
But do you think, and Ben, please chime in here because I'm asking Charles, I'm asking you this too, of course. Do you think dealerships are going to go away like the way that like with the Blockbuster and all they're going to eventually disappear because of all this open honesty and online purchasing, walking into malls? Do you think a dealership's going to go away?
I don't think they're ever going to go away because there's also a service element to your car. It needs maintenance, it needs repairs. People get into accidents, that sort of thing. However, it is changing, and no doubt about that. And where back in 10, 20, 30 years ago, big, huge monster dealerships, that may go away and be a little bit more refined, a little bit more streamlined, because exactly. I mean, many of our members, when they're interacting with the dealer, it's mainly done over either internet, email, telephone. Credit apps are sent out. It's sometimes the only reason you're going to the dealership is to pick up your new car, and that doesn't take a whole lot of space. So it certainly is changing. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, I remember it used to be when if you owned a Cadillac dealership, you were set for life. I mean, you owned, you had one of the big name dealerships. That was it. Your future was assured. It was, and it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. It seems that they're scrapping for every nickel. And
Well, Craig, when was the last time you bought a car?
about 2005.
And if you had to rate that experience, how did that experience make you feel? Did you feel like you were fully informed, like you like the dealer had your best interest at heart, or they were just out to get wrench your money out of your pocket?
A little bit of everything.
And that's where I think the problem is. It's really it's really one of those things that they. I hate going to a dealership. I genuinely do. Like my motorcycles, we don't even call them dealerships anymore. We call them the Stealership. I took my motorcycle in for routine seasonal maintenance, right? Routine maintenance. These guys ripped it apart at what was supposed to be a $200 job. Sorry, no, a $180 job turned into a $2,500 job because they just wanted to upsell.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I know. Unless you're under warranty repair, I will never take my car to a dealer because they're incredibly expensive.
Yep.
They will charge you for all kinds of things. I mean, unless you're forced to go to a dealer because you have to get a dealer part, a dealer serviceable part that only the dealer has, and you can't, and other mechanics get. I won't go to a dealer because you're going to pay through the nose for it. I go to a mechanic. I go to someone who will be able to service my car. So unless it's under serviceable warranty, it's under warranty. They don't have to pay anything. I'm not taking it to a dealer. It's scary. It really is.
Yeah.
It certainly can be. Sorry, Charles. They certainly can be. They have adjusted their thinking a little bit more so, in that they're trying to get somewhat more in line. But you're right, Craig. 20 years ago, you had a Cadillac dealership or at a Chevy dealership, you were set for life because that whole dealership was basically running as a profit center. The service department, the new car department, the used car department, and even within those departments, they were making money on each other. But all that changed, and hopefully that will continue to change, where we'll see these new car dealers coming into line with the cost of repairs that are subject with the independents. But there is also a certain standard that the new car dealers must adhere to, and sometimes those type of standards come with somewhat of a premium. But being an informed consumer allows you again to make that a good decision.
Yeah, I mean that's like here we're getting ready to put one of our classics in the shop. At least we're torn. Like we've got one that we've had for over a year, and I hate that because it's just sat for about a year, and I've done little maintenance things and little repair stuff on it, and I know the car pretty well. And what sucks is I have to go around and jump through all of these hoops to find out what people who believe that I just don't know anything about cars, or I don't know anything about the maintenance industry, they're going to turn around and try and quote me these ridiculous prices. Like I had one person to quote me to do what's called an R&I, a removal and an installation of my engine. He quoted me $700 to remove an engine and put it back in. $700 just to pull it out and put it back in. Now, if this were a modern day car, maybe that would be something you could get away with. Maybe. Because you got computer components and everything else. This is a 66 Lincoln. It's like a 9/16 wrench, a Phillips head screwdriver, and a messed up attitude, and you can get that engine out of that car in 20 minutes. But just because he assumed that I am not a master mechanic, he was going to throw all of this information at me. And when I came back at him and said, look, this is from my experience, what I know it takes to get this engine out of this car. This is what I know the pistons weigh. This is what I know the engine does. And I started rattling off everything about my car. At that point, he starts to back down, and he's like, well, and he tries to justify this clearly inflated cost, right? Arming people with that information, I think, is phenomenal. Like, if you go to a dealership and, quite honestly, you're looking at the car, it's your favorite car, it's the car that you believe is perfect for you, you turn around and say, seriously, why are you charging me, $7,000-8,000 in fees? What are these fees? Oh, dealer handling. Seriously? Some guy drove it off the truck, parked it on the lot, handed you keys, and you put it on your board? That's worth $3,000? You know, it takes the wind out of their sails to be able to scam the crap out of you.
And that's right. What's happening with that transparency when you're walking into that dealership, you're on a level playing ground, and particularly when you have costing information. Let's say you have a target price of a $1,000 profit or $500 profit, whatever that might be. So you see that car is supposed to cost you $26,000, and all of a sudden on that invoice it shows $27,000. You ask, why is there an extra $1,000? And exactly right, Charles. I've seen green fees. I asked myself, what's a green fee?
Yeah, I was going to say that. What is a green fee?
Well, I've been doing this gig for 30 years, and I still don't know what a green fee is.
We put it on the lawn.
No, the green fee is either going to be an environmental protection fee, which is ridiculous because the car doesn't move, or it's I want to put green in my wallet, so that's the fee for it.
Yeah, I like my answer. They put it on the lawn. Yeah. All right. So, but at the same time, do we deny dealers making any profit? I mean, obviously, the car costs $26,000, and the dealer's going to get sell it to me for $28,000. He's going to make $2,000 what it should have. I mean, what kind of scale do I use? I mean, it's like when I go to a restaurant and I get service. Well, I know that a 15 or 20% tip is what I give the person. So how do I know what's acceptable for a dealer on a particular car? What is acceptable? Ben?
Most cars can be bought anywhere from 3 to 5% over the invoice price. So a $20,000 car, for example, on the low end of the scale, or $600 or $700 is the low end of the scale as far as margin is concerned. With
wait, Ben, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you just say $6,000 or $7,000 is the margin between what the car costs and what the dealership is marking it up?
No.
Oh, okay.
The typical markup on the bread and butter cars are around 7%. So, for example, a $20,000 car, there's about $1,400 worth of profit from top to bottom. That's at the and that's developed that way because of the transparency. We all agree that there's incentives and performance bonuses that many of the dealerships are now working towards, because at $1,400 or $1,000 on a $20,000 car, you have to sell a lot of cars to maintain a certain profitability. But again, remember that it's like the cell phone people, right? They'll give you away cell phones because they want 10 million users using their networks, and that's where they'll get their fees. It's the same way with cars these days, where margins have shrunk. The cost of ownership of cars has also shrunk because of the subvented financing, or the cheap financing that's available.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the dealerships will look to the manufacturer, say, hey, listen, we sold 100 cars this month, so we need we met our performance bonuses, and they'll get some bonus money on that. But it's anywhere from 3 to 5% is typical. Of course, with some of the more expensive cars or some of the more hard to get cars, you'll see 5 to 7% of margin, and I'm talking particularly Canada. In the United States, there's a lot of similar type websites that are very transparent. They'll even show you what average people have paid, and that's the reason that you see dealerships trying to sell extended warranties, spoilers that cost $1,500 when they really should only cost $500. Trailer tow packages that they're trying to get $1,000 for, when you can go down to your local guy and he'll be able to install it for $400.
Mm-hmm.
So but again, being informed is really the best way to interact, and the internet has really done a lot for being again on a level playing ground, so that you're telling that seller, hey, I know what I'm doing, so let's agree on a reasonable margin based on the full margin, and let me take advantage of the incentives that the manufacturer is doing, and let's have this a seamless transaction.
Okay, so you're saying, so let me get this down. So I'm going to buy an average mid-price car. You're saying 3 to 5% above the is acceptable for the dealer to make a 3 or 5% profit for the dealer. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, most cars can be bought from 3 to 5% over cost.
Charles, does that sound reasonable to you?
It depends. I mean, it depends on the car. I mean, honestly, here's the thing. Like he just pointed out, they're not making their money on the profit margin of the car. That's not how they're making the money, because when you add it all up, the salesperson whose commission only gets a 15, 16, 10% commission on that, right? So now we've got what used to be a $1,500 profit is now down to, what is that? Is now down by $150. Now the dealership still has to pay all of the stuff that it's got. It's got to pay its electric bill and all that other stuff, and the people who are non-commission employees at the place, they've got, so then what they turn around and do is, again, $2,000 for a spoiler that's online, the exact same thing as $100. And then they get into prep and paint, and then they get into the navigation system. I've seen it's funny. I have a friend, not a friend. Well, I had a colleague several years ago who bought a navigation system, a air quote factory navigation system for his car. Yeah. Like you, Craig, he was like, "Oh, it works better. It's factory." Da 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 da. He took it to the dealership. Right? They charged him $300 to put the thing in, and then charged him $1,000 for the system. When he brought it back to me, I showed him how the system that he had installed was an off-the-shelf system with another bezel on it.
Oh, wow. All right, listen, we're going to take a break here, and we'll continue on. We're talking about buying a car with Ben Spatafora, who is the National Director for Carcostcanada, and using technology, leveling the playing field, incentives. We're going to get back to more details. This is the Computer America Show. We'll be right back. So we're talking to Ben Spatafora, who is the National Director for Carcostcanada, and we're talking about buying a car in this technological era that we find ourselves in, totally different than how things used to be, so basically the idea here is that especially with things like Carcostcanada, you go in with a level playing field. You go in, you walk into the new car dealer. You have all the information. You know what they've spent on the car. You know that, and then you do your 3 to 5%, and you sit down with the salesperson, and you what's the procedure? Do you show them the printout from Carcostcanada and say, hey, here's the numbers. This is what I'm willing to pay for it. And I mean, is that the process, Ben?
Sure. Great question. And here's what I tell all our members and most of our consumers and people we come into contact with: 4 easy steps, because you want to avoid all that sort of back and forth. Mm-hmm. When you get to the dealership, tell the nice lady at the front desk, I'm here to buy a car today. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone that can help me? Mm-hmm. Once they assign you with a salesperson, same thing. I'm here to buy a car today. By the way, I'm a Carcostcanada member. I have a price report that tells me exactly the costing information of the vehicle. I'm here to buy today. I know exactly what I want. And here's the $1 million question. So how much of a profit does the dealership want me to pay today? Wait for an answer. And if you go through, and of course you use your own style, the pleasantries and that sort of thing, but what you're telling that seller is that I've come here to buy. I haven't come here to shop. I've come here to buy. I'm equipped with costing information. I'm here to provide you a profit, because remember that sellers love the word profit. They hate the word discount, but they love profit. Mm-hmm. How much profit, it obviously is going to be depending on the type of vehicle, where you happen to find yourself, whether it's the middle of winter and you're in the North Canada where you're trying to buy a 4-wheel drive. Obviously, that's works against you. But for the most part, if you take in those steps, you'll find that the transaction will be a lot better than trying to walk in there and hiding that you're a member and trying to get a discount.
Okay. Just Charles is looming over. Okay. So
watching over.
Yeah, evidently. So now you mentioned these incentives. What are incentives and that you're speaking about?
Sure. Incentives is something that manufacturers is providing the consumer in order to them to buy their product. So it comes in a number of different sizes and shapes and forms.
Mhm.
Obviously, the ones that are the most appealing are those cash incentives. You know, in Canada, I've seen cash incentives anywhere from $1,000 or $2,000 right up to 10, and even some of the very, very exotic products, these are $20,000 cash incentive. And those are obviously the most appealing. There's other incentives that are, that can add on to those cash incentives, which is the dealer cash, they call that, or the pass model allowance when you get closer to the end of the year. But there's also incentives in the form of very, very low interest rates for the finance buyer, 0%, 1%, 2%. So those are the type of incentives that are many times advertised, but some of those are not advertised. And our price report tells you the ones that are not advertised.
Okay, all right, and these incentives that are not advertised, does that work to whose advantage?
It works to the consumer's advantage, because if you were not a Carcostcanada member, or if you did not have pricing information in the United States the same way, if you didn't have that pricing information that did not show the non-advertised incentive, you would go into the dealership, they would give you a $5,000 discount, you think you're doing a great job, you come home, and if you do find out or have one of our price reports and they say, look, there was another $2,000 of cash incentive that was not advertised, the dealership profited from that and not the consumer. So not all cars, it's not a commonplace, but it is enough of a presence in the marketplace that being equipped with that price report allows you to make sure that you covered all the ground, and that's really what it comes down to. By being fully equipped, and again, with the internet, our price reports are 24/7. You have a profile. There's a history where you can, and incentives, by the way, do change on a month-to-month basis. They're not stagnant. They don't simply, come in one month and then stay that way for the entire year. In the true form of incentives, that's the reason that they're there, is because either there could be slow sales, there could be other factors that they need to, whether the new models being introduced. I already see 2015 cars on the dealers' lots and pricing for 2015. So maybe they want to get rid of the 2014s and they provide incentives. So being equipped again with that information allows the consumer to make a great decision and in many cases get a great deal.
Now, Ben, is there something like this for the U.S.? Because honestly, I there have been plenty of times where, again, I've got friends who actually work for dealerships, and it was highly entertaining when they tell me, all those sales that you see going on at the big dealerships, you're not really getting a discount. They're marking up a price and then giving you the discount of that markup. And that's the $5,000-$10,000 cash back that you always see on these, and there's always a stipulation behind it. Where can somebody actually from the U.S. actually get a hold of some of this information so they can continue so they can do it?
Sure. Well, TrueCar is TrueCar.com is something that comes to mind. Edmunds.com as well. Just have to Google invoice pricing. There's, I think, True Dealer Cost as well, Cars Direct. So there's a number of U.S. websites, and a lot of times that information is free. You can simply go to TrueCar.com and see the dealer costing information. You'll see incentives listed. They may not necessarily have the non-advertised incentives, but at the very least, it allows shall we say, the consumer not to be dissuaded as to what is entirely available. By having that report in front of you, you won't miss something, because when you get to the dealership, and it can be very emotional. You're there. You might get excited about the car you want to buy, that sort of thing. You might miss something. You might miss that there is a $1,000 incentive for you, but by using that internet information that's available to you in a pricing sense, at least you're equipped.
One of the other things that you do when you go to a dealer is you go to that test drive. You it's sort of like, you want to kick the tires. You have to have some hands-on with the car before you buy it. Is that still important these days?
I think it's really important if you don't know that particular product. Craig, we're all different sizes. Some of us are tall, short, round. Some are trying to lose weight. Some are trying to gain weight. But getting into all these very different vehicles, they're all different sizes and shapes as well. Some, because of the curve of the roof, I remember many times, sometimes you could hit your head if you're too tall. If you're too short, getting in I remember the BMW X5, for example, because it's a little wider, every time you step out of it, especially for a woman, her skirts would get all messed up on the running boards. So it's really important. Some of us have shorter arms, longer arms. If you sit in that car, you'll be able to see whether it fits for you. And of course, actually taking it down the road, because we all have different senses, we all have different things that are important to us, allows you to say, hey, because you're going to live with that car for some time, it allows you to get familiar with it and decide as to whether or not that car's for you or not.
So do you need to know all that before you go on and make your offer? So sitting down with the salesperson, okay, here, I'm ready to buy today, and I that whole spiel that you give them, you really need to do that before you do all that.
And that's right. So, and if that's the case, if that's what you're doing, when you get to the dealership, or if many times, if you're going on a weekend or whatever, the dealership can be busy for test drive, so it's make an appointment. But tell them exactly that. I'm here to test drive your product. Or if you phone the dealership and say, I want to test drive your product, what do I have to do? Mm-hmm. It's a simple question, because you're trying to get product knowledge, and that's the best way.
Yeah, and what if the dealer says, yeah, sure, we'll test drive the car, it'll cost you $150.
No, no, it should be free.
It better be free. I'm not going to drive your car, and I'm going to go across the street and buy it from the guy across the street after I've driven your car.
But and if they keep doing this, there might not be a dealer across the street. We're going to see less and less dealers, because as margins and profit get smaller and smaller because of educated consumers and services like Ben's, like Carcostcanada.
Ben, I've got a question. Is this all geared toward just the dealer, or does this work toward like online stuff? Like what's the place? The online car buyer shopper thing. You can go and you can find your ideal car. They've got all the great
CarMax, you mean things like that?
Not CarMax, not necessarily CarMax. Is it Autotrader.com? Is that what it is? It might be. I don't know.
AutoTrader is a listing of used cars. Mm-hmm. is what it is. But I understand your question. Buying a car online is something that can be done. However, at the end of the day, if you know that product, then it's okay to buy it online. If you've been driving a Camry for a number of years and you just want to buy the next new Camry, you're right. You can just buy it online, do everything online. A lot of the dealerships have reacted by having internet departments, and that's their whole role. Their whole role is to sell cars online.
Doesn't that lower the cost of the dealer? I mean, it's
oh no, because now there's the online internet fee and the you hit enter fee, and we have to pay the web developer who we already paid for fee, or we got the template from fee. No, I don't like fees, unnecessary ones.
That's right. Well, and that's why you should use a price report or the equivalent in the United States, where you can actually see dealer cost, figure out a markup that is a reasonable, depending again where you are and what you're trying to buy, and stick to it and try and eliminate those fees. And in many cases, by the way, the internet departments do eliminate those fees. However, be aware of what we call the business office. That's where, after you've bought that car and you've done a great deal, you've bought it for a $500 margin, then they take you into the business office and decide to sell you the $1,500 spoiler, the $3,000 extended warranty, life insurance for you and your neighbor. So, just be careful of again, not to say that those things are not valuable. However,
I'll say it. A $1,500 spoiler is not
not
valuable.
valuable. I'll say the same thing. And in many cases, those, like I said, those accessories can be bought elsewhere unless they're unique. So in other words, if you're buying, Chevrolet mats that are embroidered with Chevrolet, and you can't buy that product anyplace else,
That's a
you're
deal.
right.
Yeah, it's a dealer item. And
It's
the
a
art.
dealer item.
We live in the age of the internet. If you can't find it at the dealership, call your computer buddy. He'll find it on eBay, Amazon, somewhere. He'll find it on random deep web Chinese websites.
There's got to be some dealer items that you cannot buy that are exclusive. I mean,
Ah.
who cares? No.
A remote starter. Never buy a remote starter away from the dealership.
Why? Tell me why, because that was something that I was kind of considering. It's interesting you brought that up. Why, Ben?
It involves, some electrical, shall we say, modifications in the car. Remember, that car's under warranty, and the last thing you want to do is compromise that warranty. Don't get me wrong. There's lots of guys out there that can install the aftermarket car starters, and more than likely that dealership is calling that aftermarket guy. But for $100 or $200 premium, buy it there, because if it doesn't work, you can just call them up. Come pick up my car and fix it. You installed it. You fixed it. Most other things.
That one I will give you. That if it is broken or whatever. But I always tell. But people always, to me, like, what was it? The song and dance that the dealership gave me at one point. I had a remote start. No, it wasn't a dealership. Sorry, it was like a Car Toys or something. I wanted a remote start put in my Lexus, and I went out. I went to Car Toys first, right? Went to Car Toys, found out the exact model, make, model, everything of every component they were going to put in my car. Every single one. Talked to the install guy, made sure he was comfortable, make sure he knew my car, make sure all that stuff. Mine wasn't still under warranty. It was, it's a Lexus, so, it was out of that.
What
but
happened?
I found all of that out, did all of that, went online and bought the components for like $400 cheaper than what they were trying to charge me. Then I went back and was like, okay, so how much just to install it? The markup that they did to just install it, it was the equivalent of the $400 that I just saved, buying it not from them. So, it's the same aspect with the dealership. Like I said right before the break, I had a colleague who went and paid the extra money for the navigation and all that other stuff to get it installed by the dealership and to just get that warranty portion. And when they brought it to me, I pulled off the bezel that they had installed over top of this navigation system, and it was like a Kenwood, off the shelf. And it's just one of those things where.
Was he angry? I mean, did he take it back to the dealer and showed it to them and say,
"What?" He was pissed when I showed him that he could buy the same one, the same basic component, like the same one, off of Amazon for a couple of $100 cheaper.
So what happened? He took it back?
Well, he went back, and the dealership gave him the spiel of, well, with us installing our factory components, installing the components, you get the warranty. If it breaks, we'll go and we'll replace it for free, and yada yada yada. Now, mind you, when it did actually break, conveniently, it happened to be caused by a component that they didn't install, and it didn't fall under the warranty.
Oh God, they got you coming and going, don't they?
I'm telling you, I mean, I can't stand it. It's so all about the money now that
Right.
Now, Ben, actually, I wanted to ask you something. Have you had any negative reactions to this? Have the dealerships come after you, or have they tried to do something in a kind of a negative fashion, or I know like I said, in I forget what state it was, they actually lobbied and got a law passed to get Tesla banned because the dealerships were losing money, and it was a big car town or whatever it was. Have you had anything like that happen to you?
No, not really. I mean, I've been with Carcost for 9 years and built the dealer network across the country was my first task with them. And in the early years, you're right. I mean, a lot of the dealerships were, saying to me that what I was doing was a bad thing. Those dealers were probably still using rotary telephones as well.
Well, I mean, do you ever worry about getting like misleading information? Because I mean, if you're in bed with the dealerships and you're getting all of your information from the dealerships, it's really easy to be like, oh, Ben from that place that loses us money because it educates people is coming and asking questions. What did you tell him so that I can make sure we're all on the same page? You don't think that's a possibility because it's like learning about Chevy from Ford. Of course, Ford is better. In that opinion.
You know that our dealers definitely welcome consumers walking into their showrooms, providing them profit. It takes away from the unknown, and that unknown is where many of our consumers say to me, "I didn't realize that the dealership is only making $2,000 gross profit or $3,000 gross profit." Because remember that that price report allows you to make that decision. Again, I can't stress that enough, because if you find that the economics of buying a new car are not for you, then that price report still allows you to help you buy that used car, because there always should be an element of an economic relationship between new and used. And even when our price reports are wrong, they still work because it allows the dealership, and they've gotten used to this now. They always used to deal this way, by the way, with a dealer to dealer. All we've done is brought that to our membership as a large buying group, so to speak, and all the dealers across the country, with 200,000 members across the country, we're all buyers providing dealers with profit, and the transaction being seamless, transparent. And anytime you work less, it allows you to deal with other matters or deal with more customers, and it's at the end of the day, it's all good. And plus, many of our dealers have said that their margins have, in essence, increased. Although the consumers are first primary concern. That's our target, our consumers. We equip our consumers. Many of our members, they get access to myself. I've got 30 years history in this business. I know where all the deals are across the country. I'm a phone call away. They're our primary concern. But the dealers are necessary, because we want to support the dealers, because at the end of the day, we need them to warranty our cars. And you're right. The cars used to be $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. Today, they may be $25,000, but that computer that's underneath the seat's $1,500.
Yep.
Right. And I want to make sure that dealer's there, and we're supporting them. But again, they don't make the real money on selling new cars. They make it on servicing those new cars. Warranty works. Anything that anytime the cars need repair, that's where they make their money as well.
Ben, what is it cost to join Carcostcanada? Your service? Give us a little details, because we have a couple of minutes left.
Sure. So it's $40 to join. It's a lifetime membership. For that $40, you get 10 price reports on 10 different models, and it allows you to build those models or the configuration of those models as many times as you like. And that's basically it.
Okay. And if you want to add more to that, what do you do? What is?
So you can renew that membership or top up for a 30% discount. So for about $29, you get another 10 reports as well.
Okay. All right. Good. And if you can't do it after 20 reports, you buy a bicycle. Walk to work. Exactly. Exactly. Well, Ben, listen. Really interesting. And I realize that it's your service is primarily for Canadians, but I think there's some important lessons to be learned, and should probably check it. Is there a U.S. Similar to service what you have, or are you thinking of branching out into the U.S.?
No, they're TrueCar.com and Edmund.com are two names that are predominant in your marketplace, and TrueCar is actually a great website. You should, for all your listeners in America, you should check it out. They provide invoice pricing. They also provide the MSRP. They'll also tell you as to what the average person is paying. They got a real nice graph. They do a great job.
Okay. Does Kelley Blue Book get involved with any of this anymore?
I'm not Kelley. No, Kelley Blue Book is more so for, if I remember correctly, is for used car values. Is what I remember correctly.
All right.
It's like our black book, from what I remember.
Ben, listen, I want to thank you for being here tonight. Very informative. Again, Car Cost Canada. Check out the website, carcostcanada.com, if you're in the Canadian region. And thank you so much for being with us here tonight on Computer America. Very enlightening.
Well, Ben, actually, last random question. Where are you actually located? Like, what part of Canada?
In Denver.
I can't tell you because there's a bunch of dealers looking for me.
Well, I've got a motorcycle trip planned that may have me running through the southern edge of Canada, through Vancouver, over all the way just across, just on the other side of the American border. So maybe I'll stop by and see some of your dealerships up there. I hear Canada does things way better than we do in some cases.
Yeah. All right.
I'm in Ontario, but.
All right.
All right. There you go. Ben, thanks so much for being with us here tonight.
Thanks again.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night. Bye-bye.
All right. So there you go. Car Cost Canada, and I think that
use your words.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting service. I like it, and again, you always can think about how to buy a car, and things have really changed.
I've actually gotten very good at buying cars over the years. Every vehicle that is in my garage and on my property, I have a title for. And it's a very good thing to just, I own all of them. And my wife and I have decided, it's bad for our credit, but like if we don't have the cash in the bank to buy what it is that we want, we just don't do it. It's just like we don't need it. And like my wife wants a new car. And we settled on getting her one of the Priuses, specifically like the 2005, 6, or 7 Prius, the one that I can hack.
Yeah.
And I can remotely drive via my computer. But it's just one of those things where now it doesn't make any sense to me. I see the way dealers do things. I see the corruption in a lot of these places. I see car companies like Tesla. Now, for Tesla to come out and produce a $50,000 all-electric car, that makes sense.
Hey, the famous movie line is, what that is? It's I see car dealers. Hey, we're going to be back. We're going to be back with the Computer Technology News brought to you by Slimware Utilities. You listen to Computer America on the Boost Radio Network, on the Blog Talk Radio Network, and on the IRN Radio Network. We'll be right back.